Chapter 7. Summary. Onwards to a quest. The next day, Percy was followed by whispers and weary eyes into cabin 3. The cabin was long and low, with marble, sea blue, and gold walls like waves. The door led down 3 steps to a wide open area with only one dresser, one desk, one nightstand, and one bed with purple sheets and deep blue covers, all made of dark wood. It was almost as if it had all appeared overnight. It probably had. The floor felt like sand, funnily enough, though nothing moved when he kicked it. There was a large stone fountain in the back center, the water bubbling playfully, and large windows facing the lake behind the cabin. Half-shell lights were on the walls. In the center, connected to the fountain, was a large and deep pool built into the floor, the water crystal clear but salty. Percy peered down into it and watched a few fish playfully swim around the coral-covered bottom. He pushed the bed into the corner closest to the door, parallel to where the pool started, and dropped his bag onto the desk he pulled to be perpendicular to the bed next to the nightstand. The dresser he pulled next to the desk, forming a little bubble in the big room. The minotaur horn he got back in a trade was placed on it until he could find a proper stand. Chiron had explained that since he was the only occupant, he was the head counselor by default. He was in charge of himself, essentially. It was equal parts wonderful and awful. His own space was appreciated, but he despised being looked at in the corner of people's eyes. They whispered about him behind his back, refused to let him participate in activities with them, and on several occasions just wouldn't talk to him. Even with Annabeth, Luke, Katie, Grover, and some of the Apollo kids not avoiding him, it was becoming too much. He was starting to wonder if maybe he should risk his chances out of camp. He obviously wasn't safe here, as the Hellhound had proven, so it wouldn't matter where he was. The only thing stopping him was the comforting smell of sea salt caramel, and the fact that any time he got the idea in his head, Dionysius would somehow catch wind of it and glare at him. Like now, he sighed, looking at the god in exasperation. Couldn't even eat and plot in peace. He approached the fire. Father, a blueberry muffin, sea salt and taffy. Hades, a blueberry bagel, pomegranates. Hermes, a bunch of grapes, strawberries. Then he locked eyes with Dionysius and thought, why not? He dumped the rest of his plate. Lady Ariadne, he whispered, and the air was soft with surprise and carefully picked thread. Please get your husband to stop glaring at me. I've done nothing wrong in my life. He bolted from the dining pavilion afterwards, cackling, as Dionysius yelled for some reason or another. He'd probably pray for that later, or not, considering Dionysius loved his wife and adored when she visited, according to Grover. Guess he'll see. The common area was empty of everyone, even the goddess that liked to grace their fire pit. Percy gave one look to the oddly darkening sky before he ducked into his home and prepared for bed. That night he suffered from one of the worst visions yet. The majestic blue horse and white eagle were back, grappling with each other, fighting. The black dog was watching from further away again, hidden in the shadows casted by the sandy hills. Wind blew in every direction. The water crashed down on the beach like a terrible symphony. Hey! Percy yelled, his voice getting carried off in the other direction. Hey, stop! But they couldn't hear him. They never heard him. He was starting to get annoyed. Every single time he was here. Every single time. Below them, that voice, terrible dark one, laughed at them. It goaded them on. Hey! Percy tried again, fighting his way forward. He wanted them to listen for once. He focused on the waves in his gut, yanking on them. I said stop! Everything stopped. The voice below was silent, casted away. The fighting ceased. The horse and eagle backed away from each other. The black dog was staring at him with equally black eyes. Percy startled, looking back to find the horse and eagle had also turned their eyes towards him. The depth and the sky. Don't you see, he tried? This is what he wants. No, someone growled, the voice. Keep fighting. The floor began to shake. Percy tripped back with a yelp. as it started to crack between him and the animals. It was like a giant maw, ready to swallow him whole. The dog started barking in warning. It was joined by an eagle's screech. The horse neighed in panic, launching itself forward and towards him like a wave. It was too slow. Percy screamed and plummeted. He woke up with a gasp, jerking out of bed. A scream stuck in his throat as he was caught by something and held back. Peace, peace, breathe, my little prince. It's okay. You are safe here. The arms around him were strong. He couldn't get loose. He felt limp, focusing on getting his breath returned to normal. Breathe, the god said. There we go. You're all right. Just a bad dream. No, not a dream, he choked, grasping at his father's blue chiton. Not a dream. Poseidon was quiet, his eyes churning. The tight grip he had was the only thing belaying his worry, his fear that he had almost lost his precious son to the dark. He looked perfectly human, but too perfect. There was no flaws on his skin, even amongst the laugh lines, like he was some chiseled sculpture brought to life. Every so often, his form flickered into that of something intangible. Swirls of blue and greens and blacks, sharp glittering gold scales, teeth, too many eyes, too many arms. But Percy didn't feel as unsettled as he did safe. No one could touch him in his father's hold. No one would dare try. No, he finally murmured, getting Percy's head. Not a dream, a vision. Something you shouldn't have seen. Peace, for now. Go back to sleep. I don't want you to go yet, but we'll have to if you continue to be awake. Percy was suddenly incredibly tired, despite having been wide awake moments before. A flash caught his eye. Wearing the bracelet? Percy slurred, eyes fluttering shut. Glad you liked it. Lips brushed against his forehead. A rumbling chuckle Percy committed to memory lulled him back to sleep. When he woke up, he was well rested, but the empty cabin made his heart clench. There was a clopping sound at the door. A hoof knocked on the threshold. He pulled on his sweater and went to greet Grover. Mr. D wants to see you. He looked worried, eyes constantly glancing over his shoulder. They bounced between where the big house was and the giant, unnatural storm that seemed to be making its way over camp. Katie had explained how the weather in camp worked, but Percy wasn't so sure the storm would follow those rules. Grover's face said he was thinking the same, but hoping he wasn't right. At the volleyball pit, the kids of Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against destroyers. Pollux and Castor were walking around the strawberry fields, making the plants grow. Everyone was going at their normal business, but they looked tense. They kept the eyes on the storm. They walked up to the front porch. Dionysius sat at the pinnacle table, where his usual shirt, himation. A can of Diet Coke sat in front of him, though it smelt more like wine. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents. 2 sets of cards hovered in the air, which smelled faintly of grapes. Dionysius is doing then. You called? Percy spoke up. A net of lightning flashed across the clouds. Thunder shook the windows of the house and rattled his bones. Dionysius sighed, and the cards dropped from where they were. I'm off to Olympus for an emergency meeting. If you know what's good for you, Perseus Jackson, you'll find somewhere to hide deep in the ocean where your father can protect you. Noted. He picked up the playing card, twisted it, and it became a plastic rectangle. A security pass. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became see-through, then a wind, then he was gone, leaving only the smell of freshly pressed grapes lingering behind. Chiron smiled at them, but he looked tired and strained. Sit, Percy, please. And you as well, Grover. They sat. Tell me, Percy, he said, what do you make of the hellhound? Interesting question. It was dangerous, he thought out, for everyone, and it proves that I'm in danger even here at camp. It's forcing your hand, isn't it? Yes, unfortunately. The thunder rumbled across the valley. The storm clouds had now reached the beach. Despite what had happened last night, it was like the sky and the sea were now boiling together. They're fighting, he said, over something valuable. Something that was stolen, aren't they? And I have a feeling someone thinks I stole that valuable thing. Chiron's face was unreadable, but Grover's lit up. I knew it, he said. Hush, Dryer, Chiron ordered. But it is his quest. Grover's eyes were bright with excitement. It must be. Only the Oracle can determine, Chiron said. Nevertheless, Percy, you are correct. Your father and the king are having their worst quarrel in centuries. They are fighting over something valuable that was stolen. To be precise, a lightning bolt. The God King's weapon. A 2-foot-long cylinder of high-grade celestial bronze, capped on both ends with god-level explosives. Percy winced. Zeus's master bolt, Chiron was getting worked up. The symbol of his power, from where all lightning bolts were patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclopses for the war against the Titans. The bolt that sheared the top of Mount Etna and hurled the Titan King from his throne. The master bolt, which packs enough power to make a mortal hydrogen bomb look like firecrackers. And it was stolen. They think it was stolen by me. That's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice, at the last council of the gods, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. The usual nonsense. Mother Rhea always liked you best. Air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. Afterward, Zeus realized his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room under his nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Now, a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly. That is forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your father convinced a human hero to take it. Of course he did, he said sarcastically. Zeus has good reason to be suspicious. The forges of the Cyclops are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the making of his brother's lightning. Zeus believes Poseidon has taken the Master Bolt, and is now secretly having the Cyclopses build an arsenal of illegal copies, which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing Zeus wasn't sure about was which hero Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You are in New York over the winter holidays. You could easily have snuck into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. Uncle Z sounds like a paranoid, delightful person, Percy muttered. Chiron sighed. Poseidon has tried to upseat Zeus before. Do you remember the story? A golden net, Percy immediately answered, wishing for all the world he hadn't gotten out of bed. Poseidon and Hera and a few other gods. They trapped Zeus and wouldn't let him out until he promised to be a better ruler. Doesn't sound like it worked if you ask me. Correct, Chiron said, ignoring the last part. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon since. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the Master Bolt. He took great offense at the accusation, and even greater offense when Zeus dragged you into it. The two have been arguing back and forth for months, threatening war. This family is so messed up, he complained lightly. Most thinking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's style, but the sea god is too proud to try to convince Zeus of that. Zeus has demanded that Poseidon return the bolt by summer solstice. That's June 21st, 10 days from now. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief, and reparations for blaming you, by the same date. I hoped that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make the two brothers see sense. But Zeus's temper and Poseidon's pride and protectiveness is well known. Now neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, unless the Master Bolt is found and returned to Zeus before the solstice, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war would look like, Percy? Considering that they are the sky and the sea, I can only imagine nature would be fighting itself, and we would all be caught in the middle. It started to rain. Volleyball players stopped their game and stared in stunned silence at the sky. Percy's fist curled. Zeus was going to punish the whole camp because of him. So now I have to go find the bolt. He looked at Chiron in confirmation. Except if my father doesn't have it, then who does? Chiron's expression was grim. Part of a prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me now. But before I can say more, you must officially take up the quest. You must seek the counsel of the Oracle. That's the weird corpse thing in the attic? Grover sputtered, pale, but Chiron only sighed, nodding. Go upstairs, Percy Jackson, to the attic. When you come back down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. It was 4 flights up, and the stairs ended under a green trapdoor that smelled faintly of some old herb perfume, snakes, and sunlight. He pulled the cord and climbed up the ladder. The smell was twice as strong, only distorted by the heavy smell of rot. He clipped his nose, gagging as he stood back up. The attic was like a Greek hero junkyard. Armor stands covered in cobwebs, once bright shields pitted with rust, old leather streamer trunks plastered with stickers saying Ithaca, Circe's Island, and Land of the Amazons. One long table was stacked with glass jars filled with pickled things, severed hairy claws, huge yellow eyes, and various other parts of monsters. A dusty mounted trophy on the wall looked like a giant snake head, but with words in a full set of sharp teeth. The plaque read, Hydra Head, Number 1, Woodstock, New York, 1969. By the window, sitting on a wobbly wooden tripod stool, and the source of the horrid smell, was the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. A shriveled-up human female body. She wore a tie-dye sundress, lots of beaded necklaces, and a threadbare over long and sticky black hair. The smell didn't lie. She had been dead a long, long time, but something still lingered. It was one of the saddest things he had ever seen. She sat up and opened her mouth. A green mist poured out, covering over the floor with thick tendrils, hissing like 20,000 snakes. Inside his head, a voice echoed, slithering in one ear and out the other. I am the Oracle of Delphi, speaker of prophecies for Apollo Loxias, the god of truth and prophecies. Approach, seeker, and ask. He jolted at the name, bay laurels seeping into his nose. Something else was here with them, watching through the curtain. For a moment the sun peeked out of the clouds and lit the room. What is my quest? Percy asked, stepping forward into the sun. It danced along his skin, skimming it in amusement, like it was trying to see all that he was. The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of him. It took shape, and then there was a sneering man staring down at him, a bottle in hand. Percy blinked back, eyes wide. The feeling of warm hands on his shoulder kept him in place, soothing despite there being no one there. Not real. The man was not real, an illusion. He looked down at Percy and spoke. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end. Oh, how lovely. Someone flicked his ear. He swatted at the invisible hand, grumbling as the mummy rested itself in her chair. She reclined against the wall, her mouth closed tight, as if it hadn't been open in 100 years. The attic was silent again, abandoned, and the sun slithered back into the clouds. His audience with the oracle was over, but Percy hesitated. This was a curse at work, he was sure. He could feel how wrong this was in his bones. The Oracle of Delphi, despite never coming into contact with her, was never supposed to be locked in one place, in one rotting body. There was a deep orange wingback chair behind some boxes, dusty but in relatively good condition. He heaved it over to her and took care to be extra careful as he transported her body to it. He angled it so she would still be in sunlight when it designed to grace the camp again. I cannot remove the curse or whatever it holds you, he told her, but I hope this is a bit more comfortable than a stool. The smell of laurels followed him back down to the first floor. I have a quest, he announced when he got back to the pinochle table. Chiron gestured for him to continue, and he repeated what she had told him. Failed to save, Grover muttered, worrying between his chews of a Diet Coke can. Percy hoped Dionysius was fully removed the wine from that thing or not. Could strayers get drunk off wine? He shrugged, not willing to share his thoughts. The god in the west, Percy asked Chiron. Ring any bells? Ah, think, Percy, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other in a war, who stands the gain? The Titan King? Grover dropped the remains of his can in horror. No, Chiron said, but he was looking at Percy in a deep thought again. No, I'm sure not. Someone who harbors a grudge, who has been unhappy with his lot since the world was divided eons ago. Whose kingdom would grow powerful with the death of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children. An oath that both of them have now broken. Whoa, wait, what? Grover squeaked. A fury came after Percy, Chiron reminded them. She watched the young man until she was sure of his identity, then tried to kill him. Furies obey only one lord, Hades. Uncle, please forgive him, Percy thought as pomegranates filled the air. Yeah, the Furies were incriminating, and the Minotaur, and the Hellhound. Well, actually, that one wasn't him because the pomegranate spell hadn't been that present, but still. Yeah, okay, really wasn't helping his case here. Percy mentally gestured to the mess in front of him, wondering if it was possible for his uncle to get the message that he really had done this to himself. Chiron had continued with laying out the evidence. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill this young half-blood before he can take on the quest. This was getting worse by the minute. But a quest to... Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in someplace like Miami? Miami is a very nice this time of year. Percy agreed quickly, but he knew it wouldn't ever be that easy. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt. Chiron assisted. Percy eyed the vase of flowers in the corner. They had been bright and beautiful just a second ago, but now they drooped and decayed right in the jar. He hid in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I didn't pretend to understand the Lord's motivation perfectly, or why he chose this time to start a war. But one thing is certain. Percy must go to the underworld, find the Master Bolts, and reveal the truth. The vase cracked. Yeah, Percy thought, great, this was going to be fantastic. Not even started yet, and Uncle H is already mad. He promised to sacrifice more than a bagel at tonight's dinner. If he ever got the chance, maybe Uncle H would take an offering to go. At least Father and Uncle Z hadn't been listening, probably too busy still fighting with each other. You don't have to go, he assured Grover. I can't ask that of you. Oh, Grover shifted in his hooves. No, it's just that strays and underground places, well... He took a deep breath, then stood, brushing the shredded cards and aluminum bits off his t-shirt. You saved my life, Percy. If you're serious about wanting me along, I won't let you down. Percy smiled. There was that courageous friend he knew was in there. He turned his attention to the empty space behind Chiron's shoulder, smelling of owl and olives. I'm guessing you volunteered? He asked. The air shimmered. Annabeth became visible, stuffing her Yankees cap in her back pocket. She looked perturbed. I've been waiting a long time for this quest, seaweed brain, she said. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to keep you from messing up. How confident. If you say so, he shrugged. I suppose you have a plan, wise girl? She did not, at least not then. Her cheeks colored. Do you want my help or not? Never said I didn't. Is 3 a good number? Excellent, Chiron confirmed. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you're on your own. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that were never supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing.